And hi guys, and welcome with me the 40k Empress, and with me is Quinn, one of the OG Warhammer fans that sometimes is here to join me and we can talk about your topics about, well, Warhammer 40k. And today's topic was actually suggested last week, and it's about, as you can see the title of this video, what is Constantin Valdor plotting for the Imperium? And looks like it's a huge freaking mystery. So yeah, custodies are one of my favorite topics, as well as Henry Cavill's favorite topic. So that is what me and Henry Cavill have in common. That and we both love Superman and we work out. Yeah. So Constantin Valdor is the very first, basically, custody. Some call him the Primarch of the custodies, like the strongest, the oldest, maybe even the wisest, which makes a lot of sense actually. He had a key part to play in the last, Horus Heresy books as well. And now he is just somewhere out there, supposedly, in a pocket dimension that was very oddly meant for Horus, but now Constantine is somehow ruling over its ashes. Basically, it was destroyed by the Emperor, as far as I understand, and Constantine was somehow, yeah, residing there, making plans for the future, creating an army of warp entities that are actually an opposite of demon entities. Basically, they're like light something demons. Well, demons, we talked about demons many times, that in this case, it is imply that this is not about being evil, it's about just being like basically a non-material being that is somehow existing in the warp along with all the other beings that are, from this nature or from the evil nature, which are the demons. So all of this is very, very interesting, and it's a bit newer to me because I didn't dive into this that much since this moment. I mean, because of this video, of course, I had to dive more into it, and of course, to get even to the Valdor book. And as far as I understand, there should be like a continuation of that coming from Dan Abnett pretty soon, hopefully. So yeah, Quinn, what do you think about all of this storyline about Constantine Valdor, and maybe something is going to be happening in the future that is imperative to the whole story, maybe?
Like all the Primarchs returning eventually, apparently even including Sanguinius, the rumor has it. So, Constantine Valdor, I've heard stories over the years that he could be the Golden King that's been speculated about. And is he going to be the new savior of the Imperium? Or as people speculate, is it going to be Leman Russ for the end times? But it's all coming to a climax by the looks of it.
Yeah, actually, the King in Yellow. He's referred to as
Yeah,
the
the
King in
king, yeah, the
Yellow.
Golden King, yeah. King in yellow.
So some people,
But
I think that they're trying to speculate that maybe Constantine Valdor wants to somehow replace the Emperor and technically commit heresy in this way, but I don't think so. I think that he is actually building an army so he can somehow return the Emperor to the living. I don't know exactly, I mean, what could the plan be, but I do think that he is loyal to his core. I don't think that he can be corrupted in any way. I just think that he is trying to create something, I mean, a force that nobody else has, so he can be formidable enough to, be beside the emperor. And maybe, just maybe, what he is doing is actually the plan of the emperor all along. It was the emperor all along. you know.
well,
So
there's lots of stories, as I said. It's hard to figure out what we're gonna end up with because why did Lehman Russ go into the warp? He's been gone for 10,000 years. Some say that he's entered the Garden of Nurgle and he's looking for Aisha or the Tree of Life. Some think that Aisha could be the Eldar goddess that he's going to rescue and bring back, and she's going to help resurrect the Emperor. Um, who knows? It's all a mystery. It's something that we'll have to hurry up and wait to see, basically, because all we can do right now is speculate. That's the only thing we can really do. There is hints here and there, but there's nothing definitive to say, this is the smoking gun that says this is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I have theories. You have your theories. We all have our theories. Some figure they're more right than others, but we won't know until GW gives Dan Abnett the go ahead to write something that says this is the way it is.
Yeah, but judging by what Dan Abnett said before, how he's thinking as an author, I really don't think that he's gonna come up with something that will make very less sense. I mean, I think that he's going to do something in favor of the Emperor, since last time, if you read all three of the last Horus Heresy books, I think you read all three when.
I've read one of them. I still have the other two to go through.
Okay, so you're at the End and the Death Volume 1, I guess.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so you have two more. Well, when you read the other two, you also see the fight between Valdor and Abaddon, and that was interesting as well. So
Hmm.
there's a lot around, Valdor, because since he was picked up as a baby, it seemed that this was extremely important to the Emperor for him to find him, to get exactly him. There were some suggestions that maybe he is a perpetual, and because he is like the first created by the hand of the emperor, especially, that he is extremely special and he has some kind of a role in the future, and maybe what he's doing now, it's actually his role. What is his purpose, what the emperor wanted him to do, and Malkador seems to also have known all of that. So if that is the case, it's going to be very, very interesting. Like, imagine this is a story thread that is unraveling for thousands of years, basically.
And 40 years of our time.
Yeah,
So let's be honest. Any conclusion that we might come up with, we might not know the answer for another 20 to 40 years in real time.
yeah, because Games Workshop
If
are.
the game is still, well, if it sticks around that long, and it's possible it could, it's a slow burn. We may never know. We could be dead in our graves before we find out what happens with the Emperor and Valdor and Lehman Russ. I mean, I expect to hear back from Lehman Russ within the next year or two because they're coming up with a refresh for the line apparently, the Space Wolves. But yeah, it's just all speculation at the moment. You talked about his golden army that he's creating. Well, I've heard that they're actually some of them could be actual legions or parts of legions that have gone with him into the warp, into the pocket dimension, or they could be ephemeral beings like the Legion of the Damned. Are they a Lost Space Marine chapter, or are they actual miracle ghosts that materialize um, based on the faith in the miracles that can happen for Space Marines, apparently? So yeah, I've heard hundreds of stories of different possibilities, and no one of them could be right. None of them might be right, but they all seem plausible. It's just we won't know until somebody writes something that says, "Yeah, this is what's happened and this is what's happening."
Oh, yeah. Well, my fear personally is that we will never know what's gonna happen to the Emperor, and GW will not bring him back, although things are going in that direction when you look at what's
Yes.
happening with um, the return of Gilliman before that, and then he is working towards building up the Imperium and protecting it. Well, mostly protecting it, basically. But it seems like he is doing the Emperor's will in some kind of a capacity, but he is one of those primars that's a bit more unaware of that. He's still doing
Hmm.
it, but he does not know exactly what he is doing. I mean, what his actions are actually doing when it comes to the plan of the emperor. And then we have the lion returning now, and we don't know exactly what is his role and how he's going to react to Gilliman as well when they meet in person. All that is also very interesting. And then there's just a lot of loose ends of how everything's going to connect. It's amazing, but yeah, what worries me is that Games Workshop will just leave the Emperor to be on the throne like forever and never going to actually give us something new, like a renewal, of the story, if he is actually back to the setting and actually doing something, there's a ton more possibilities of how the universe can be invigorated. So we can no longer say for 10,000 years the emperor was on the golden throne and he's a rotting corpse, and I'm just tired of all of that concept. I think that he was rotting for enough time and now we can finally have some kind of an interesting plot line so we can actually go back to him and so we can actually see him. And there's the plot line of the Star Child. That's basically his best qualities, his goodness, compassion, all the good things that you can imagine that the Emperor has, the love of humanity that has to connect with him, with his real self, when he is reborn. So all those things are set in motion, they are placed, everything is like in its place, and then all those things that are in their place have to like come together like Voltron, so the Emperor can come to be again somehow. So whether that's gonna be, I mean, Constantin Valdor is going to find a way through another Eldari god or something, or another way. Yeah, who knows? I'm just thinking that things are looking to go in that direction, but then again, I'm kind of afraid that GW will not do that, just tease us to the end of time. Like, I don't know, what do you think?
Oh, they're gonna stretch it out for as long as they can. Um, it seems like they give us one Primarch a year that'll come back. We've had sorry, not Lehman Russ. We've had Rilvuta Gilliman, and he came out like 5 years ago. And just recently, we got Lionel Johnson making his appearance. Now we're getting rumors of Lehman Russ and Korax and maybe Jagdai Khan. They're going to stretch this out for as long as possible. I'll tell you now, do not expect to find out within the next year or two. I would say maybe 10 to 15, maybe even 20 years before we get any conclusions as to what's going to happen with Constantine and the other guys. They're going to stretch this out for as long as possible. The Emperor, he's not making an appearance for at least another 15 to 20 years. Real time, not warp time.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
that is really what
I just
worries me.
temper your expectations as to when we're going to get the story. They're going to stretch this out.
So I do expect that. What you're
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
that's my fear,
Yeah.
literal.
Well, no, I wouldn't even fear it. Just accept it because that has been GW's modus operandi since I started playing about 37 years ago. 37 years ago, the horse hearsay was mentioned, right? Now we're only just finding out that more details about the horse hearsay. How long do you really think they can stretch that out for? They can do it for another 30 or 40 years if they wanted to. So just temper your expectations, people.
No,
Uh,
no. I
yeah,
mean,
I'm
no.
sorry, but
No,
you're talking. You
no.
said I'm an OG. Well, I'm just telling you, curb your enthusiasm. I mean, enjoy it. Go for the ride, because don't forget, it's not the destination; it's the journey. So they're taking us on a journey.
Yeah, on the journey as a snail. Snail.
Oh yeah, it's a snail's pace.
But then again, when before there were not that many books, there were not that many novels, everything kind of started to ramp up, like maybe
Yeah,
after
when I
2000
started.
and something.
Yeah, well, when I started in '96, that first novel that I read was the Omnibus of the Deathwing, and there was a lot of flavor there, and that kept us enthusiastic to play the game and learn more about the lore. Then we relied on codexes when they were released to get more lore about the individual factions. Yeah, they've been spoon feeding us, but it was still enough to keep us hooked and enthusiastic about the game. So I'm sure GW, if they have any sense, knows how to um, keep teasing us different parts of lore without giving us any decisive answers. I mean, we've got more decisive answers about what happened in the Horse Hearsay. So they're obviously looking to churn a new page, and we'll see what happens towards either it's the end times or maybe humanity will actually, find freedom. I don't think we'll ever get to that conclusion point, but we're definitely going to see the conflict that leads up to it. And that may be something that they could do for another 30 to 40 years.
Oh no, no, no.
Oh yeah, I mean, at least the game will still be around, but it will
Mm,
still be grim dark.
I kind of think that because times are different now than they were, in the late 80s and 90s. I think that things are a bit more speedy now because more people are joining into 40K, and 40K is going to become a bit more mainstream if it gets to be made by Amazon, and if it's good and if it's faithful to what 40K actually is, all those things. So maybe they're going to be a bit more, pushed to produce more lore quicker, whether that
But
be
he's
answering the past or presenting more answers now in the future. We'll see. I just think that it's a bit faster now. And Dan Abnett said that something is coming that's gonna present a major twist. I'm not sure in which book. Something that's going to be like in this book that is a continuation to Constantin Valdor's story, and that's gonna tie into everything, but we don't know yet. I just hope that something comes out that really
well,
has substance to it and not just filler, because I'm really sick of the filler that all the books
well,
have.
that's we're gonna get a conclusion, I'm sure. And as I said, it's gonna be starting a new chapter. But I don't think we're gonna get the conclusion that everybody expects, because then that would basically stamp the end of the game. They're gonna they've been leading up for the last 40 years in real time, coming to this point, the culmination. But the Emperor making an appearance, I don't think that's going to happen for at least another 15, maybe 20 years. That's not going to happen, in the next 5 or 6 years. It's not. I just, I could almost, if I had $1 million and I was a betting man, which I'm not, I'd almost guarantee that the Emperor's not making an appearance for at least another 10 years, probably another 20 or 30
Okay,
in real
well,
time.
how about the
In spec, but
how about the perspective of the emperor? I mean, of GW telling us how the emperor is going to return, or what are the steps to that,
I
and then
think they'll
having
tease
like a
us.
quest to this process, because we don't have that yet.
Yeah, that could be kicking off with the return of Russ and the Valdor if they show him within the next 5 to 10 years. We might. It's another at least 2 years before we can expect to see something from Lehman Russ. I gather. 2025, 2026 is when they're supposed to release his codex. So but I mean, there's speculation as to what Russ is doing. Again, why is he in the warp? Is it to bring back the apple from the tree of life, or is it to bring back Aisha, the goddess of the Eldar? We don't know. It's the same thing with Valdor. He's got his army building up. Now, is it to come and help Gilliman retake the lost segment of the Imperium, or is it to bring the Emperor back from the Golden Throne? It could be both. We just don't know. But I don't think we're going to get anything decisive. They're going to feed us more filler on that subject. So we'll have the horse hearsay explained. That's done with. We've had the 10,000 years of stagnation of the Imperium. Well, now that Gilliman's back, that stagnation is starting to be reversed, and we're starting to see more thinking of along the Belisarius call lines of bringing science back into the equation instead of just the status quo. But I think that will be where the new chapter starts. It's going to be seeing the Imperium trying to make a rise again, but they're also going to have to fight back the oncoming Tyranids, and what are the Necrons doing? Because those are the two big bads, as well as Chaos, because Chaos is the current uh, nasty force that is invading into the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot on the plate, and I guarantee you they're going to drag it out as long as they can.
Yeah,
And I don't
probably.
mind that, because it's been a great game for the last 40 years. I'm sure it could stick around another 40. People like the Grim Dark.
Yeah, but I do think that it's a bit of a lazy writing if they stretch it out, and definitely it's just going to lose quality at some point if they don't have some kind of a definitive like conclusion to anything, or at least, like I've said, like a quest that has particular steps that we have to go through until we get to the emperor. And then after we get to the emperor, maybe eventually, maybe in this lifetime, if we get to him and he is back, then you have again endless possibilities of how the story can continue, and how he can defeat chaos or something. Or I don't know, there are so many endless possibilities of who the emperor can go against first, and how he's going to gather his armies or primarchs, and maybe Horus is going to somehow get revived and he's going to have a showdown with the emperor. That is also something that can be stretched out for years as long as we get to that. So it's not like if we're getting to the emperor, then everything's gonna be over. No, we can have endless amounts of story threads branching out from just the emperor coming back. So to me,
But
it's
it's
super cool if we get to that point just a bit sooner, not like 20 years if possible, because it's gonna be just more interesting. It's going to be less filler and more of the real substance of 40k.
but that's the thing. It's going to be like the Great Crusade 2.0. If the Emperor comes back, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be the Great Crusade all over again, and then it could just lead right back into who becomes traitor at that point. It could be like a cyclical thing where it happened once, it'll happen again. So will more loyalist forces turn chaos? We don't know, but I'm just along for the journey. I don't want to see. I don't really want to know what the end point is just yet because I enjoy the journey. I've enjoyed it for the last 40 years. I don't see why I can't enjoy it at least for another 20, 30 years.
Well, okay, but I really do think that if they are doing the cyclical thing, it's gonna be again another case of lazy writing. Instead of just doing very interesting story points from here and there, why would we want another Horus Heresy, so to speak, traitor storyline, where the
Who
whole
knows?
point of this one was actually that it's probably already, I mean, it's probably something that the Emperor already knew that is going to happen. Those questions have not been even answered yet, definitively,
Yep.
once again. So we have still here, I mean, still in this part of the lore, we still have to dig more and we still need answers there. But let's say that we get those answers, then if it's another, cyclical thing, it's gonna lose the point, it's gonna get boring and meaningless. So they better come up with something else that is continuation and not repeat of the
Mm-hmm.
story before that. It's just gonna be dumb if they do that.
Well, at the same time, it could also be quite funny. Be the wicked sense of humor that creeps in there. But I don't know. I mean, honestly, there's many possibilities, but I could see it become a cyclical thing where the history repeats itself. Then again, it could be something totally different. I just don't expect to have a happy ending because kind of defeats the whole purpose of the universe itself. It's grim dark. It's about the struggle of humanity to survive. So they'll have to find some way of if they decide to bring the emperor back, it's just not going to be a cakewalk and it has to be something gripping that keeps us interested in the game for at least another 40 years after that when they turn that chapter over. But they can do it. It just takes creative writing and good writers and people that have good stories to tell. And we've been blessed so far for 40 years to have good stories. I mean, people come into the game late and they say, "Oh, well, I've read all these things and will give me more." Well, you got to learn some patience, people. It's a virtue and something worth learning is some patience. Having everything thrown at you, well, then once you've had it all and you've eaten it, what are you left with? Nothing. So just enjoy the journey, see where it takes us. That's my advice.
Ah, yeah, of course. But if I can think of a few storylines where this can all go, I'm pretty sure that Dan Abnett and everyone else that are the good authors, not the
Mm-hmm.
the left authors, the good
Mm-hmm.
ones, they can pretty much think in the same way. And when I analyzed what he said before, I was correct, which I'm happy about. So that
Mm-hmm.
means that maybe, just maybe, I can be correct again and that they are not gonna be lazy and actually write something really awesome and grandiose that will make
Mm-hmm.
everything that we know so far come together and answer the other questions and then expand upon that and create Warhammer 40k 2.0, like going into the 50k millennium, which is still a lot of time until then. But the point is that there still can be like a 2.0 of how this whole thing can develop with the Emperor and how everything can evolve. Because really, if you think about the Horus Heresy and the Primarchs, all of that looks like a prototype of something that it could be much greater in the future. maybe with a different structure, maybe not all Primarchs, because there will not be all the Primarchs. Something else that we just cannot think of, but it's like really the 2.0 of what is, what was before, something like that. But yeah, but the Emperor has to be there and has to be alive and has to be, in charge of everything.
I just had a wicked thought.
What?
Well, okay. Um, given the climate that we've been living in for the last while, remember Malcador says, "Why didn't the Emperor create some sisters?" So, the 2.0 is he'll create female Primarchs and go with an all-female line in the future. We'll see the conflicts between the brothers and the sisters.
Hmm.
Or get some real female custodians instead of the out of the blue custodians that we got. The Emperor will actually make an effort to try and make female custodians instead. Something different. I'm just being wicked, sorry.
Yeah, I won't even think about that at all. Even I
Uh,
will not think about that because I'm not thinking about anyone's freaking gender at all. I'm just thinking about
no,
how to make a good
exactly.
story. Not even
I
think about the
agree.
female characters, like not even a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean,
No, I know.
they will be there. It's just that I'm thinking about the first main players, and then maybe they can also get out of the blue this mother of the Primarchs. She does not exist at the moment, as far as I know, but maybe she can come back if it's meaningful somehow. I don't know, really.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's lots of possibilities, but it would take somebody like Dan Abnett to flesh out that story, to make it plausible, to make it enjoyable, and to make it fit within the universe itself, that people can accept it instead of saying, "Hey, this came out of the blue at an out of left field." But all I can say is just for the now, just enjoy the journey. We've got lots of speculation going on about 100 different things. Um, but that's what GW's been very good at, is stringing us along for so long. Because I remember when it was just bare bones, the skeleton. Here's the horse hearsay. You've got some loyalists and you've got some traitors. You've got some demigod beings that are, just under the level of the god emperor, and they fractured the Imperium. And here's a big conflict, and it's been going on for 10,000 years, and the emperor is no longer on the throne. He's basically a corpse god sitting on a throne that keeps a glimmer of hope for humanity to survive. And yeah, but the filler that they've had between them, like it was Erebus that started the whole chaos problem. It was Logar that wrote the book that the Imperium is now based on. His book of religion is the religion that the people now follow in the Imperium. Those little twists of lore and flavor are just, I don't know, I enjoyed it. I'm not in a rush to find out what happens decisively at the end, because to me that would be the end of Warhammer 40k, and I don't want to see that happen anytime soon, because a lot of people, well, at least in my generation, you had to learn patience for things, but to have everything thrown at you in instant gratification like we live in the world today, well, what do you have afterwards? Because you just left wanting more, but there's nothing left to give because you just had it all dumped on you. So UW has been successful with the format and the model that they've created, and I think they should continue on that journey. And people that come in late, well, you've got a lot of catching up to do, but just enjoy it. Um, that's the whole point of it, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, just a different perspective, I guess.
Okay, okay. I just think that when you have a lot of good writers in your roster, and GW does, they can always
Mm-hmm.
just continue 40k and make it something. I mean, make it like still 40k, just continuing the story and not be afraid to write more amazing stories with real continuation. Because sitting in one place, yeah, to me it is a bit lazy. And then I just go filler things that are really side characters that don't really have much of an impact of the story, but they are filling up the books with them sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say the left leg of Malcador. or something like that, and just a story about his left leg, or some other Magos somewhere, and he does not really matter. But we are like what having an hour at least to spend with him in the book, stuff like that. Some human characters here and there really does not matter that much. Sometimes human characters are important so you can see things through their eyes, but a lot of the times are really conversations that are pretty annoying. So I'm literally talking about the smallest things, but they're still there and there's still a lot of them, enough for me to call them filler in the books.
Hmm.
Like when I went through all the Ant and the Dead books, the few things that were extremely major, what was really they were just a few things. There was so much between, let's say, the scene where Sanguinius was going to see Horus, that just so much between that. And the meat of the story was just sprinkled throughout the whole book. So you have filler, main story, or part of the main story, filler, main story, filler, and that was like the whole time. It was ending on a cliffhanger each time, and then back to the super boring part that I don't even remember what it was about, honestly. So that gets very tiring after a while. I just wanted to know what the heck Sanguinius was talking with his brother and then with his other brother, and I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, the conversations, I wanted that to continue, but instead I was, pulled from that directly and put into another situation which was not that interesting. And when we are talking about that, also the fight between Constantin Valdor, because he's the topic, and Abaddon, and this whole fight in general between the Custodes and the forces of Horus and Chaos in general, and each scene was like starting with the line, it was like how many seconds into the fight, it was how many hours into the fight, it was like days into the fight, and to illustrate that time is just going on and on and on, and they're still fighting and fighting and fighting, and that was again sprinkled around the whole book. And I'm like, what? uh, can we just put it that like that put this fight together so I can imagine it, I don't know, better?
So what you want is the quick cut of the book condensed for you.
That's gonna be good.
Yeah. Well, somebody can do that. You can get AI to do that for you, and then you can listen to the story again in a condensed version.
I don't think so. We cannot operate with so much information. I mean, if I cannot
Uh,
put like a whole book into Copilot, let's say, and be like do this summary of the story.
I'm sure there's somebody clever enough out there that can do it for us.
If you find it, let me
Sure.
know.
Yeah,
And
I want a
Daniel
condensed
says,
version.
yeah, really, if you find it, let me know. Daniel says Valdor has something big planned, but this is 40K, so there's going to be a big backlash. I'm not sure what you mean, but yeah, back to his plan because we don't have a lot of time here. Back to his plan, guys. It seems rather confusing because he is doing something that's unorthodox. He is collecting an army that we never heard before. I never heard, before about this army that is the army from Imperium. It's very weird. Then something about type of an authority. I forgot that part. I'm not sure what that was about. Then he is trying to lie to some forces of chaos, take their power or something like that. But custodians don't have psychic powers, so I'm not sure what he's doing there. Yeah, it needs a lot of explanation, I would say, about how powerful is now Constantin Valdor, because, you know, he's not supposed to
Well,
have any kind of a power like this. Maybe just the army that he's gathering is his power and his knowledge that he's gaining from all the enemies that he killed with the spear that he has. So, yeah.
we don't know everything about the custodies. Don't forget, they're supposedly made from the gene seed or the genetic material of the emperor himself infused into their bodies. So I'm sure some of them have some psychic ability somewhere, and Valdor might be one of the few, especially given he's a Primarch, and most of the Primarchs have some form of psychic aura or ability around them. To get back to the backlash question, well, if it's from the fans' perspective, then yeah, I can see that because not everybody will be satisfied with the outcome that they were expecting because their theory did not pan out. If it comes towards a backlash from the Imperium, it's possible if he's bringing in warp entities to fight for the Imperium, there might be people that within the Imperium that would object to that, especially say the Grey Knights, for example. They might have an issue with demons, whether they're for the Imperium as opposed to against. Uh, it's just speculation. We'll have to wait and see.
I just haven't seen any indication that Custodes ever had any psychic powers. It was always like brute strength, their abilities,
Yeah,
durability, the fight that was depicted in the book between Valdor and, and Abaddon. Go, I mean, yeah, it went exactly like that as well. So if he had some hidden power, better like bring it up because now is the
yeah,
time.
exactly. But that's something that they can future book will might bring along in the future. Dan Abnett could do that, or one of the other people that write about Custodes. Uh, that could get put into a future codex book. Who knows? Because the thing is, the lore is not always just in the novels. A lot of the lore we've gotten, at least in the early days, was from the codexes themselves.
Yeah, that too. And Lutku says, ain't Valdor in the webway? Well, no, he's like in a pocket dimension in the warp.
It could be attached to the webway. We don't know. I mean, it's all again. There's. It's just like the whole starting of the horse hearsay thing. We had stories from the original game from Epic Warhammer 40,000 Epic scale back when I started in 1989. Um, that was the whole springboard for what we have today. We just don't know. We're only speculating, so we hear different stories, like the whole Rabuda Gilliman coming back to Lehman Russ coming back. There's different stories. There's different authors that have written different things, and again, it's just creating an environment for us to speculate on, and that's what keeps us attracted to the game so much. And then as we get more further down the line, you have more authors writing things, you will get more information that's more decisive and definitive, saying yes, this is true, and that is not, or more speculation. We don't know. That's all you can actually say, really, is we don't know. Just we'll have to wait and see. Everything
Yeah.
else is just speculation. There, we can throw spaghetti on a wall and see what sticks, but we won't know what sticks until it's written about.
Yeah, of course, of course. But that's the fun part that we are
It
saying
is
that we are speculating openly. We're not saying that's true. We're saying exactly
exactly.
that it is speculation. People want us to think about those things, to see where things can go according to at least our logic. So that's what we do.
Yeah.
And eventually that Amnet or whoever decides that will be like, well, here's what actually is going to happen. But really, what Valdor is doing is just so interesting compared to everything else that everyone else would do. Uh, what he is doing is the opposite of conventional. So that's what is very very curious here. What is
Mm-hmm.
his idea actually?
Exactly. But on a bigger spectrum of this, if you look at the fandom in general, this is what nerds do. We're being nerdy, and we're actually having an interesting conversation about a topic very niche and specific. And but that's the whole thing about fandom is that we can actually have agreements and disagreements and enjoy the conversation. And that in itself needs to be applauded and be brought back. Um, Trying to push the plot forward, well, in opposition to that idea, look at Batman and Superman. They've been around for what, 80 some odd years now? A lot longer than Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah, actually.
And but when you think about it, they always go back to the same old stories, and we still go as people. We go and enjoy them, but the same stories get retold. Warhammer 40,000, although it is an environment that is stagnated, we still get all these different great stories, whether they're filler or not. And they're still trying to progress the story even further. So there is hope. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just really strange but at the same time intriguing. But that's the appeal about the whole Games Workshop universe for the Warhammer 40,000, is that it's an environment that's stagnated and almost gone backwards in some cases, yet the story is still going forward, and they've still managed to string us along for 40 years. It could last another 40 years. That's what I'm saying. I'm not expecting to have any conclusions anytime soon, and I don't mind because I'm enjoying the ride because they have had clever writers keeping us interested. The tabletop is an excuse to continue writing the stories that we're getting. Same with the video games that we're getting. I think having an Amazon or a cartoon series is just icing on the cake, but it's not going to be the filler that I need to actually continue to stay hooked to the game. That's my opinion. But the whole thing about Valdor, um, we don't know. That's all we can actually say is we don't know. But to discuss what he might do, I think he definitely has a plan to come back and try and save the Imperium in some way, whether it's to directly bring the Emperor back or it's to assist Gilliman. I think they're all plausible things. I think they could all be correct at the same time. We could be right off the wall on it.
Yeah, or if he wants to bring the emperor in some other unconventional way that nobody's gonna agree with, that is how he has to act the way that he has to act.
Yeah, maybe he brings back the Star Child from the warp and reduces it to the Emperor in the throne room. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe if the Star Child can like go down and interact with the Emperor's body, then the Emperor's body can be
Yeah,
regenerated, and then
exactly.
poof, we have the Emperor. Because I don't see any other body being suitable for the Emperor. If just this body can be regenerated, his original body, that's gonna be the ultimate body anyway. Like, this body was meant for the Emperor. Why not just regenerate it? If he can
Yep.
regenerate Gilman from the God Blight, why
Yes,
not
exactly.
his own freaking
Himself.
body? Yeah.
Exactly. It's possible, but we don't know.
Yeah,
But
Daniel. Okay, we'll see about that, Daniel. Hopefully, no. I'm really hoping that sooner. Damn it, like 30 years, we're all going to be old by then. Jesus, I don't know what. Don't want that.
well, I could be in my grave and you might find out, but I don't know. Um, I just don't mind. I think they've done a fantastic job in creating these stories to keep me interested to want to continue to learn. I just know, based on my experience of being involved with the hobby for so long, you're not going to get your answers right away or anytime soon. And just to curb your enthusiasm or your expectations. Uh, but I still think there's going to be some great things coming along down the pipeline. There always has been. Like the whole Gilliman coming back was out of nowhere for me when I found it. I was like, oh, Gilliman came back? Okay, when did that happen? Oh, that happened in 5th edition. Oh, really? So tell me about it. Okay, that's interesting. So where are they going with that? Was the Emperor coming back? Who knows? Now they're saying the rumors, and I have to use the word rumors, is that they're going to bring back all of the Primarchs, including the dead ones. Now, does that mean, um, oh, what's his name? Besides Sanguinius, because he's totally dead. The Iron Hands lad, Ferris Manus, is he coming back? How are they going to bring him back?
Yeah, it does not make
But
any sense, really, for Ferris to be
but
back.
oh well, or Sanguinius, but they're saying that they're going to bring him back some way, but I can't say that is fact. I don't know. But they might try in some way to have it happen. Maybe they come back as Force ghosts. Who knows?
That's gonna be lame. Okay. Okay, so Daniel thinks that if the Emperor comes back, the game is over for everyone else. I don't think so, because once again, if you're a good writer, you can write things in such a way that there still can be a lot of interesting storylines, struggles, stuff like obstacles in front of the Emperor. A lot of things can happen, can branch out from him being back in the universe. So I don't think it's game over. I think that it's a new opportunity to make the story even more sophisticated and interesting, as long as they're very good writers that have the capacity and the fantasy to actually write such a story.
Well,
So yeah.
I okay. I can see where Daniel is coming from when he says that it's game over. Basically, when you bring somebody that is that overpowered and that godlike back into a universe, it kind of makes everything else kind of becomes blasé and boring. You look at the writing that we have today, the Mary Sues of female characters that they're all so wonderful, and they only had to get out of their way to find out just how wonderful they are. They didn't have to have a struggle. They didn't have to have a journey. The Emperor is kind of like that. He is the Gary Sue of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. If he comes back, it's game over only in the sense that, well, there's nothing else that can really stand up to him. What is they're going to have to come up with something more outlandish to become a challenge for the Emperor to deal with. Because as soon as the Emperor is back, then chaos is going to be defeated. Nothing is going to be able to stand before the humans in the Imperium. There needs to be a bone of contention. It's going to take some very interesting and fantastic writing to find something that people will say, hey, that I can understand why the Emperor's back and he's got this challenge now. So yeah, I can see the point of the Emperor coming back. It is kind of game over for the Warhammer 40,000 universe as we know it, because he is a game changer. He's the end all be all. So I think that is the whole reason for the journey that we have Warhammer 40,000 is the Emperor is a background character. He's the hand that moves things behind the scenes, but he cannot directly influence anything. And I like that. That's why I like to play the Space Wolves. Um, everybody else is kind of generic. You've got your standard Marines that are the Ultra Smurfs, and everybody else is a repaint of them with slightly different flavor. The Space Wolves are basically the black sheep. They stand out, they do their own thing, but they're loyal. But they're not the ultimate end-all be-all of, like, say, the Custodes, who are the right hand of the Emperor, that can go in and everything's done. No, they have to struggle. I like things that have to be a struggle because that creates tension, that creates stories. When you can do something with just the snap of a finger, well, then that's boring. It's just meh. I mean, it's nice to hear about stories of it happening in the background, but when it directly influences story, it just becomes, I don't know, it becomes generic. It becomes like everything else that we've seen, where everything's just handed to you in a golden platter, and it's like, there you go. Well, where was the struggle? Where was the point of this? Yeah, I think that's why people are not, well, some people might not be keen to have the Emperor come back because, where's the struggle then? Where's the story? He's back, yay. Now now everything can be done with a snap of a finger or a blink of an eye.
I
And
just think that
you know,
that's
eh,
again the lazy writing talking.
well, that would be lazy. That is lazy writing, but that's how a lot of things like that do happen because they are so powerful that they're omnipotent gods. They don't have to do anything because it's all good. Now, if the Emperor came back and he lost his psychic powers, but now he has to rely on his wisdom and his memory, that could be an interesting story twist. How does he? Now he's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. Does he have any real power other than the power of his knowledge? That could be an interesting twist.
I think that we do have some concept idea of power and some kind of a complex against power because I do think that if you're a very good author, you can actually write about very powerful figures without being boring and still make this power be interesting because we don't need to relate to a person to to have this character be interesting if you can only write it in such a badass way but not in the way that's going to diminish anything else as the quality of the story. I think that's going to be more valuable than to try to depower the character that is supposed to be very very powerful just to have some kind of a other type of a story that again is going to direct us to not having any power, just to going back to some kind of a regular things and regular stories and regular characters. I just don't like that. I like when an author is so smart and great that he can actually have a powerful character and make it do interesting stuff and not cancel everything else directly, but still make it a badass like comeback in this case. So yeah,
Well,
that
that's
would
the
be
thing.
a lot better than, well, I'm very powerful and now I'm not going to be very powerful, so everyone else can feel better about themselves. I
Well,
feel
that's
that's kind
well,
of weak, so to
yeah,
speak.
but that's the problem. Omnipotent characters have no flaws.
But
If
he
they don't have any
has.
flaws,
I mean, he
yeah, well, he
has.
has
He
currently.
has.
He's stuck in the golden throne, right? But that's what makes him. an interesting character is because he's not the one central focus of the universe. But if he becomes back and he's omnipotent and can do whatever he wants, that takes away the mystery, that takes away the struggle.
Well, he
There's
has struggled for 10,000 years, Quinn. I mean, you cannot
he's
say
gonna have
that
to
he
struggle
have
for
a.
another 10,000 for us to enjoy the
He's
story. That's what I'm
literally frying
saying.
himself there on the golden throne for
Yes,
10,000
yes,
years. That's a torture device for 10,000 years. So,
yes, and that's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes the universe interesting. But to have him come back and then there, and that's the problem when you have omnipotent characters, and I don't think any author can write an omnipotent character that doesn't have any flaws be interesting. I just don't think it can be done.
but he has so
Um,
many flaws that I just don't think where you come from. Where is this point that you're coming from? He has 500
okay,
tons of
so
flaws, and he is not
yes,
omnipotent at all. And maybe
yes,
he's not gonna be when he comes back.
but
Exactly like that.
when he was alive, all right, and Storm, rampaging across the galaxy, taking everything back, and I mean, it was written like he was a godlike being that it had no flaws. Now, as we get a little deeper, we see some of the flaws, but they were basically glossed over. That's what could happen very easily if he was to come back into mortal form or immortal form, but not sitting on the golden throne any longer. Then he's just not going to be an interesting character any longer. That is the fear that many people have because that's you just look at the history of writing. When you have an omnipotent being, like people, um, writing, the whole point of the like Mary Sue, when it came to Star Trek, they saw Star Trek and they figured, well, I want to interject myself into this story, but I'm not going to have any flaws because I'm the Mary Sue, and I'm better than everybody else. Well, the Emperor kind of is that omnipotent being that if they brought him back, I don't know. I think it could cause more problems as far as trying to write good stories. Then it's kind of like that is the end of Warhammer 40,000. Um, unless they bring in a whole new universe and a whole new threat that they have to fight against. But then that's just, to me, that's just more lazy writing because now they have to. It's one-upmanship of everything else. So I don't know. Well, we'll have to wait and see.
I just think that you have a different view of the Emperor than I do, because from
Possibly.
what I've seen from the Emperor for so many, yeah, from so much digging, he is anything but perfect, and
Oh, I didn't say
he
he's.
and he has so many interesting things about him that
Yes,
makes him interesting when he was alive.
but he's a background character.
Yeah, that is because nobody has the balls to write about such characters in more open way. That's a lot
But
easier
it's
to
that
bring him,
mystery.
to put him behind everyone,
Yes,
instead
but
of
it's
just
that
putting him in
mystery.
front.
It's that mystery that the fact that he is a background character, that he's not the focal point. He has so much power that if he snapped his fingers, everything could change at his whim. But because he's limited to the fact that he's on the golden throne, that's what makes it interesting. But if you have this guy that can just say, all right, well, I don't like the Tau and blink, they're gone, or I don't like the Tyranids, blink, they're gone, there's no threat anymore.
But why would you
Because
think
they
that he could do that and he never did that
because
before?
we already well we're talking about now that he's come back, he's gone through this long struggle and he's growing his power within the warp, that he has these abilities now to do that. Like look at what he did with Mortarion when he was fighting Gilliman, he brought him back. All right, when
Yeah,
he
but
comes
that is the
back
only
he's
thing
going
that
to
he
re
was able to do in his condition. He
yes,
brought back Gilliman,
yes,
and that's it. He never
yes.
destroyed, Mortarion or obliterated
Well,
Nurgle.
maybe it's not part of his plan, but he's going to have those abilities. I mean, you listen to people when they talk about comparisons of other universes. Warhammer 40,000 can destroy any universe that they come across. Of like Warhammer versus Star Wars, as an example. And people say, "Oh, well, the Death Star can take out a planet." Well, one ship from the Warhammer 40,000 universe can do the same thing with half the effort. And a Psyker is like 1 million times stronger than a Jedi. We're talking about power levels here, and
That
I
maybe
just think
not
that
used
an Emperor
ever.
Returned. I think that an Emperor Returned is just going to be a less interesting environment for stories, unless they come up with an even bigger threat that the the Warhammer 40,000 universe is not faced yet, unless it's like the Necrons will all come back. That could be an interesting big struggle because the Necrons took on gods. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a lot of assuming, Quinn, though, because you're
well, that's
assuming.
all we can do. We're all assuming. That's all we can do. It is assumption. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you're assuming that he's gonna destroy everyone, where previously we don't
He has
have
the
such
ability
a.
to. Has the ability to. I didn't say he would. I said he would have the ability to. That is the difference. And to me, that makes for a less interesting character.
Still assuming that he will have this ability because once again we don't know, he relinquished the
We don't.
godhood completely. That's why he lost, and that's why we have a universe, because he would have
Yeah.
destroyed all the universe if he would
Yeah.
have become this god. If you finish the books, you will see
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
where the last
But that's what
books.
makes him interesting.
Yeah, but he did not. He said no,
Yes, I know.
and he's not
Yes.
a god. He's just not. He said
Yes.
no, I'm not a god. That's
Right.
it.
And that's what makes him interesting. But if he comes back, something tells me that somebody would have the temptation to write him like into like a godhood status, unless they gave him some major handicaps. I don't think it would be worthwhile to bring the emperor back anytime soon.
No, they will actually, because if they don't, what we know previously is that if he is to become like the king, the Dark King, how was the prophecy and all those things, he would destroy the whole universe, chaos, humanity, all planets, everything in the universe, and the only thing that's gonna be living is himself, and that is why he decided to not do it. So basically, they have to bring him back as a good person somehow when he reunites with the Star Child, and then become a godlike entity, but nothing like the Dark King. He has to be somehow in a smaller scale so he can still exist and not destroy absolutely everything and everyone and all those things. So we have a lot of, well, how do we write that and not make the Emperor so powerful that he destroys absolutely everything? Like, literally, they have to think about that now because they cannot go back to the Dark King. It's not gonna make any freaking sense because the Emperor already relinquished that. Knowingly, he decided to be himself and face the horse that way. So he had some kind of a humble moment and a moment of reason and all those things. But okay, we are 1 hour into the stream, guys. We gotta go. We just gotta go. Okay, so tomorrow hopefully we can continue with the other topics that we had here. We have more topics that you suggested, guys, and Constantin Valdor was one that we really wanted to talk about, and of course this opens 500 other topics. So that's why we're 1 hour in. We're supposed to be 20 minutes in. Yeah, that is always how it happens. Damn it. But I hope that you all got a very entertaining conversation and you got your food for thought, so to speak. So thank you, Quinn, for this awesome talk.
Indeed.
Okay, guys, so love ya. Check the links down below if you'd like to support me. And until the next time, with me, the 40K Empress, and of course, Quinn. Bye, guys. Bye bye.